Welcome, everybody. I am Chris Parrish, and alongside with Ed over to this side of me, because I got it wrong the very first time, but we are here presenting to you the first ever Saturday edition of Love Wrestling. But before we get into that, we want to make sure that we promote our sponsors, RK Athletics, who's been here since day one-ish. As we head in, want to thank you, RK Athletics. And if anybody is questioning whether or not they want to rechange their lifestyle, maybe get into the art of fitness, learn a little bit more, get a little bit more buff, check out Rich King, who is the owner of RK Athletics. As I will say, he has one of the best physiques in the Alberta Western scene of pro wrestling. He knows his stuff. He can get you in gear, and he does a great job. I already know that he works alongside among a lot of guys in Alberta, and he is making some changes and waves. Out of the way, Ed, how are you doing? And thank you for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me. And it's been a hell of a week. I'm excited to talk about it. At least we have stuff to talk about this week, and probably more than we have time for.
Yeah. As Astrid, who I believe you dubbed her the Natural.
I did not. Matt
did you not?
Matt did that.
Okay. Somebody did. I don't always pay attention.
Yeah,
but when I
was
do,
Matt.
But yes, no. Hello, Astrid, and we will. If you want to jump on, feel free. By the way, and we have Sam. What's up? What's up to you, Sam? Thank you for joining us. And then we have Kevin. Heyo back, Kevin.
Hello.
Great seeing you guys, and thank you guys for hopping in. We also want to make sure right off the bat, we ask anyone, if you have a topic, if you have anything that you want us to talk about, we want you to feel encouraged bringing it up, because we want to make sure that this is an interactive show. We do have topics at hand if we have to, but we also want to make sure that you guys get your 2 cents in, and we try to make that peripheral chicken salad out of you know what, but we also just want to make sure that you guys are involved as well. So what do you want to start with today, Ed? I'm going to leave that to you. You can start with whatever. What stood out to you this whole week in professional wrestling?
The power of a rumor is what stuck out to me. We've seen it the last couple of weeks with WWE gearing up to come back to live fans. The power of social media and rumors of this person's coming back or this person's coming back. And now with this week's breaking news of Daniel Bryan is apparently signed to All Elite Wrestling and getting ready to debut in Flushing, New York at the Grand Slam in a couple weeks. We also have CM Punk talking with wrestling people, most likely AEW, it sounds like. I was going to say, does that mean Punk is coming to AEW?
Couldn't have had better timing with that comment. And Kevin also, for whatever reason, just found a silver hair in his beard. Well, Kevin, we get old. That's just what happens. Yeah. But what doesn't get old is a CM Punk rumor and chant. But first off, you touched on Daniel Bryan. Let's stay with Daniel Bryan for right now. What do you think about him going to AEW? Should he have stayed with WWE? What does this do? I particularly don't like him going to AEW. I'd rather have seen him stay in WWE and go to an NXT. What's your opinion on Bryan Danielson, I guess we'll call him now, in AEW?
Here's the thing. I love the idea of him staying with WWE. It makes sense. But here's the problem. If they're not going to let him go down to NXT or work with guys he's never worked with, we're not going to get anything absolutely out of the world's fantastic. With him going to AEW and potentially, as long as these rumors are saying, potentially being able to go to New Japan, there are so many dream matches that we've never seen that we might get to see. Daniel Bryan might get to make stars out of people that are ready-made to be, breakout superstars. Like Daniel Bryan versus MJF is a match that I want to see if he goes to AEW. Daniel Bryan versus Jungle Boy. Daniel Bryan versus Scorpio Sky. Like, those are my 3 big matches for AEW because I want him to bring these guys up to his level. And MJF is pretty damn close as it is. But Daniel Bryan's another level superstar. And if we can get him there, then the world is their oyster. And they may be able to do 1.3, 1.4 and be able to overtake Raw in the ratings.
Yes, and that's a fair point, and I really wanted him to go to NXT for that same reason, just kind of help the next generation come up. And we'll get to NXT later in this show. I don't know, there's something about him against an Adam Cole or Johnny Wrestling or, man, even Samoa Joe, and we'll get to Samoa Joe later. That'll never get old to me. But you are right when you say kind of helping out, because the guys in AEW, they are on that next cusp of becoming the next top guys of a new generation in professional wrestling. And perhaps he needs somebody other than a Chris Jericho to help you kind of elevate yourself there, because he really is the only true megastar right now in AEW.
Yeah, Cody's trying to do it, and he's not doing it as well as I think he would have hoped he's doing it. I think Matt Hardy was supposed to be that guy, but we're quickly finding out that Matt Hardy's appeal outside of the Broken Universe isn't as big of a draw as people thought it was going to be. That Christian's not as big a draw as people thought it was going to be. And if Christian is seemingly headed towards working with Jungle Boy, is going to be great for Jungle Boy. He's going to learn so much in that feud once they get there. But it's just Matt Hardy just needs to. The Matt Hardy Christian stuff needs to stop because we've seen it.
Yeah, and then that's something I definitely don't want AEW to get in a rhythm of trying to copycat old feuds that we've seen. Like, sure, touch base about their history. That's all well and good. I do not like wrestling companies insulting my intelligence as a wrestling fan. But with that being said, I do want to see something new. I want to see something fresh because the network does a great job of letting me go watch something that happened 10, 15 years ago. I have a feeling this show's going to jump around the place, so we might as well do that. I don't want to ignore any comments, but let's stay just on here for 1 second. Omega said in an interview he's excited to possibly face either one of them. That gives me hope. Yeah, I get it. Like, Omega is, for me, not my cup of tea. I know he is a big draw for a lot of people. A lot of people love him, and I get the whole idea behind those dream matches. And it's kind of nice to have dream matches that's not in WWE. That's very healthy for the pro wrestling scene. But actually, we'll stay on topic for once. Punk's massive following of devotees would bring up the ratings, people in seats and dreams matches all around. I agree. I think it's going to be very buzzworthy whenever CM Punk returns to pro wrestling. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, after a 7-year back and forth, will he, won't he, leaving in his prime and still being in an age where wrestlers are still doing some of the greatest work of their careers, Punk can have these dream matches with no issue as long as his ring rust wears off and he's able to, cardiovascularly handle these matches. The problem is, I know people like Pluggo, and we're going to use Pluggo as an example because he's on our channel and we've seen it the last couple days. Pluggo loves a CM Punk rumor, and he's a CM Punk fan, and it brought him back to the business, and he's going to love it every time CM Punk comes back. I've had my heart broken by CM Punk rumor one too many times. I honestly don't care. Like, I'm excited that he might come back, but I don't want to get my hopes up on that one. I'll get my hopes up on Daniel Bryan because he's never really done this will he, won't he leave and, dance and stuff like that. Punk's done this courtship with WWE for years where it's like, oh, maybe he's going to come back. No, he's not. Oh, he does StarCast, but it doesn't really work out.
Yeah. Kevin also said Danielson's ability in the ring followed and around Starbase could also bring up the ratings up. Look, the one thing that I do like about AEW is that they do give guys a platform and they do showcase. What I don't like is the fact that every other week it seems like somebody else is coming in the company, and we always seem to forget that somebody works for the company, and somebody always seems to be faded out because they're bringing somebody in. But you mentioned about not caring about CM Punk and that he broke your heart a few times. A return that throwback.
Oh, throwback! Thank you for the sub.
We appreciate it. We're talking about returns that maybe I don't care about. I'm gonna go and switch companies 1 second, and I'm gonna go back all the way to Monday night. Bill Goldberg, not somebody I personally give a peripheral shit about. He returned to confront Bobby Lashley after Bobby Lashley competed against another returning who I have all the time for, Keith Lee, in a match. Why don't we go all the way back to Monday Night Raw, because that was the beginning of the week, more or less, since we talked last on this at the Money in the Bank after thing. What did you think about the returning Keith Lee against Bobby Lashley?
It was such a great surprise to see Keith Lee. I didn't know he was coming back. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting for the time when he did. I'm glad that it seems like they might have something for him now. Keith Lee versus Bobby Lashley. We got a small taste of what these two guys are capable of, and it's going to be out of this world when we get the full thing. Speaking about Goldberg, while I don't want to see him back, I get why they did it. And you know why they did it? Casual fans like Goldberg, money.
Yeah.
But more importantly, if you want to bring up the ratings, WWE and AEW are bringing up the ratings in two different ways. AEW is catering to the hardcore wrestling fan, which there's a lot less of that they're trying to bring to their side. While WWE is saying, all these people remember Goldberg from 15, 20 years ago, and we want to bring him in. And it's like, yeah, while the Goldberg isn't going to excite the internet wrestling community or the diehard wrestling fan, that pop on Monday night tells you that WWE sees what they need to see, and that people are going to cheer this guy when he shows up because of the music, because of the nostalgia, because of Goldberg just being Goldberg.
Yeah. I want to get to an old comment simply because I don't want to forget about this one. We are staying on Raw though. Jumping on. You're talking about nostalgic acts, and over on the female side, we have Alexa Bliss, and she does have a doll named Lily. Sam asked, what's your opinion on Lily with Alexa Bliss? Do you think it's going to become a big storyline or just phase out how it
Just stop.
Yeah. I am terrible for assuming what people said, only because I tend to get in trouble for assuming what people say, or somebody's mad at me. I've been married too long to stop doing that, so I'm going to let you kind of work on that because you're better at that than I am. But with that being said, like, I like the fact that they decided to take the Alexa Bliss character and make it a solo thing and not always be quite like with the Fiend all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think in front of a live crowd now, it can become a little hokey, which is okay because I do feel with horror and that kind of genre that they want to kind of go with that character. You kind of have to get a little hokey at times. Not to mention the rate, like where WWE is, they're not like a PG-13 or a 14A product, so they can't really go full like they can't really go there to the fullest. They can't really go like embalming people alive like Undertaker once did, I guess. But at the same time, like they're more portraying, I guess, on the Papa Shango comedy voodoo.
Yeah.
So,
which I have all the time in the world for as an old school wrestling fan, growing up with Papa Shango and stuff like that. I have all the time in the world for this. Lily is going to be fine as long as it's a backstage thing. If they try to make Lily like they were seemingly attempting to at the end of the Thunderdome, to make Lily an actual thing, like in ring and things like that with the quick changes and whatnot, that's going to get problematic. But if Alexa just talks to a doll and it's kind of that old school voodoo kind of her own little dark side that she's, portraying inside this doll, it's fine. Like wrestling is inherently goofy and crazy as it is. So having something that's like this isn't necessarily going to ruin anything, because it's also the one thing on the show that they're doing like that.
Yeah, and it's also very interesting of what they're doing. So there always seems to be tie-ins to somewhere else. Like the one thing I loved about the Fiend's evolution through the times, and even we saw this when Bray Wyatt was doing, his swamp kind of persona. We saw everything kind of tie in over time. So it was really nice. And I have a feeling everything with Alexa Bliss is also going to tie into something larger, whether it is, the Fiend coming back, whether they are going to work with each other on a team or, possibly as, rivals at some point. I can only imagine what the bigger picture is here, because this is one of those times where I have no idea what they're really doing next. I have no idea. This isn't my genre. I'm not really much of this spiritual voodoo kind of stuff like that. So I kind of just enjoy it. I know a lot of people really put a thumbs down, to say it in a positive word, about the WrestleMania moment between them. But I don't know. I think Lily brings in a new direction for the Alexa Bliss and really allows Alexa Bliss to shine. And when we think about Alexa Bliss, she can work so well in kind of that actress kind of a way, but now she's working with a doll and getting herself more over. When you think about that, you got a true talent in Alexa Bliss, and this is why I think she actually is one of the best female workers throughout WWE. Like when we think about the whole circle of what you need, like she is really, really well.
Yeah.
And Sam saying thank you. Sam, I hope you really did not think we forgot about you, because we do not. And if you have any more comments, please throw them out, because we will not forget them. I'm trying to stay on topic somewhat. I'm not that well. Tomorrow we'll be off topic for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Trust me, for brunch. But yeah,
I was going to say, Alexa is definitely one of the top female talents. She brings something that none of the other the top talent. I'm going to say the Four Horsewomen, because really, when we're talking about top female talent in WWE, ideally we're talking about the Four Horsewomen. Alexa brings something that only I think Sasha and Bayley even come close to bringing, which is this ability to do so many different things that they can kind of do whatever they want and continue to move in an upward trajectory. I mean, Alexa Bliss came into this company as a fairy tale princess with a blue tutu, with glitter and everything else. And then she was, the manager for Murphy and Murphy and
Blake.
What was Murphy? Yes, Blake and Murphy. Thank you.
Who's now going by Weston Blake, by the way, as he said on Chris Van Vliet's show.
Very, very
Weston
nice.
Blake now moving forward. Good tie-in.
Yeah. But I mean, she's elevated this character, and then she created the goddess, and it's just like she continues to evolve a simple character and learning how to be a better wrestler along the way. There's no telling what her ceiling is based on the ability that she can do anything, including all of this stuff with Bray Wyatt and all the stuff she's doing with Lily. The sky's the limit for her.
Yeah, and I do want to stay in topic with women right now and I'm gonna try to throw SmackDown, Raw, NXT in AEW right now in the whole thing. We're seeing a real emphasis on time given to women in the last few weeks, and I'm saying this is very refreshing. We go on SmackDown, and we saw another match between Bianca Belair and Carmella, who I thought for twofold, Carmella is slowly becoming a focal point of the division on SmackDown without always having to go over. She's becoming one of those pinnacles. It's almost like this is what they try to do with Lacey Evans, but Carmella right now is just better at it. And then Bianca Belair, I think this is where she's thriving as a champion, a fighting champion, just in matches. And then we get kind of everything else as kind of like the sizzle to the steak. And then we go to the NXT and we're saying Raquel Gonzalez against Xia Li in a title match, who I thought they absolutely killed it there. And then we saw Nyla Rose against Britt Baker on in AEW, and they had an amazing match as well. And these are, yes, just the title matches, but they're also given a lot of time to showcase. And this is exactly what you have to do. And I'm saying this because the another rumor that we're getting is that WWE is going to present you for the first ever a Queen of the Ring tournament. This is something that I have been wanting to see for a while. I know Spencer and I have been talking about this. I'm sure we're not the only ones. But with this, and then with, I believe it's Ring of Honor and their women's tournament.
Yep, the Gold Rush Invitational.
Yeah, like there's a lot of emphasis on women's wrestling, and we saw at Slammiversary Mickie James returning to try to bring in Deonna Purrazzo in this. We saw
NWA Empower.
Yeah,
an entire pay-per-view devoted to women's wrestling from NWA.
Yeah, Sam. Also, Alexa's acting ability is amazing. That's what made her so good with her facial expressions. Express a lot of the storyline without saying a word. Yeah, and I just rewatched her match, and I believe it was, who was it again? I think it was with Sasha Banks, where she did her arm conjunction. And that was just priceless. Like the little things she can do is amazing. But staying on point with the women right now, give me your top three. Company, we don't have to stay in company. Who are your favorite top three women's wrestlers right now, based on what you've been seeing through pro wrestling, that you're saying these are the top three in pro wrestling right now?
Deonna Purrazzo, Thunder Rosa, and Bianca Belair. They're absolutely killing it.
I was going to say Bayley until she got hurt. I'm going to say this with active. Number three right now, I'm going Deonna Purrazzo. I think, yes, she is absolutely killing it on so many levels. I think your number two right now should be Bianca Belair, just based on what you're seeing. My number one, though, is Britt Baker. I think she is standing out top of anybody in AEW. AEW is, in my opinion, one of the companies that really need to focus more on their female division.
And they made a good step of it this week.
Exactly, which is a great week to have. It's also another thing I really want to tell.
Hit the wrong button, sorry.
There you go. Yeah, we're not afraid to make a mistake here. It's what we do. But throwback getting in, Bayley before the injury was number one in my book. I agree. I think when we talk about the impact that Christian can bring to a locker room, what Sami Zayn does to a locker room, because I've gone on record saying Sami Zayn is the Christian of this era. But we're seeing those heart and soul workers kind of really help and shift a direction of a division. I think Bayley's is for the female division. We kind of saw Natalya do this beforehand. I think Bayley is taking over on this end.
Yeah.
So I don't want people to forget about Bayley, but also please make sure you're checking out all the other companies, because the female division, especially Deonna Purrazzo and Impact, she is probably going to do something with Mickie James, who I think is a shame who's not in the Hall of Fame yet. But Britt Baker is just on another level in this last year. So very good stuff.
Pandemic's treated Britt Baker very well. I would say AEW, again, making a big splash, bringing in Thunder Rosa, officially, finally, being able to bring her in. That's a huge coup for them to have her locked down there. If you want to watch great women's wrestling, I'm going to shout it out again. NWA Empower, a show being run by Mickie James, bringing in talent that she knows and that she trusts from around the world. These women are going to kill it on that show. Give it a watch. Let them know that women's wrestling does matter. I like this list, but this is a list from a year and a half ago, in my mind. Because with Tessa having not worked much of the pandemic, as great as she is, she's falling off the radar because she's not putting her work out there. And the way she left Impact during the pandemic could have been handled better. After they put the world title on this woman and made her a focal point, the way that everything ended there is a real shame.
Yeah. Do you know who did appear on Impact and is making some waves right now?
I do.
Yeah. I think you know where I'm going. I'm talking about Switchblade Jay White. We saw him at Slammiversary, debuting an Impact. He is there now. He looks like he made an addition to the Bullet Club. Do you want to talk about Switchblade Jay White and Impact for a little bit?
Sure. So Switchblade Jay White showed up at the very end of Slammiversary, and you had the Elite there trying to give him the 2-sweet, and he just stood there. And the show went off the air, and it was a bit poor timing as Finn Juice was running out, but it is what it is. On Impact, he came out and he cut a great promo talking about how he wanted to say thank you to the Bullet Club's biggest fans. And all the fans are chanting 2-sweet, and all the fans are chanting Bullet Club. And he's like, oh, that's great. I love you. I love all you guys, too, and you guys are very important. But I was talking about the guys in the back that think they're Bullet Club. And I love that line, how he's talking about Gallows and Anderson, who are OG Bullet Club, who use that name to continue to push themselves throughout everything. And in his mind, that I remember his line to Carl Anderson was, you peaked when you lost in the G1 final. And he's like, Carl, and then he said to Luke Gallows, you've never been able to be anything in this business when you weren't associated with the Bullet Club.
Well, I mean, he was pretty good in the straight edge society, but I mean, Bullet Club is another level.
I was going to say, it doesn't fit their storyline and their narrative. But Jay White is sitting out here, and he's calling out these guys who are like, well, we're Bullet Club because we were once Bullet Club. And if Bullet Club's for life, then we're Bullet Club. And Jay White's like, no. You guys are part of an old guard and an old reign. And this is a new Bullet Club. And I like the idea. And if this leads to Jay White versus Kenny Omega again, fine. But I really hope this leads to, and this is, again, based on the end of the episode of Impact this week, I hope this leads to Chris Bay dethroning Kenny Omega as the Impact World Champion.
See, I was going to go somewhere else because Bullet Club usually always gives you twists and turns and just, again, like as soon as you think you're going there, something hits you over there, and then your reality is completely different. I have a feeling Chris Bay isn't the guy. Okay. I think he is who you think we're supposed to go for, and then they're going to surprise you with someone else. I'm going to say this. What's the potential of seeing perhaps a Sami Callihan in Bullet Club?
I mean, with Bullet Club, anything's possible. I don't know if New Japan wants to work with Sami and how that deal is.
Or even a John Moxley, because these guys, I think, would be a lot more open to that. I just think that we're going to see something a little bit bigger than Bullet Club, than Chris Bay. I think Chris Bay might be the guy that wants to go up against them.
There are spoilers out there, and I'm not going to ruin it for anybody. I've seen some images from the tapings from Impact, so I've seen a couple. I've seen a couple images.
We've shared them in our.
We've shared them in our Slack chat. Things are going to happen. You know, like you say, Bullet Club loves the twists and the turns. I like the tease that they had this week where Josh Alexander was cutting a promo about, you know, how great it was to keep the X Division title, and Kenny Omega comes in. He's like, "Oh, you're the X Division guy. What if we see Option C again?"
Well, and that's exactly, like, I'm very happy you brought that up, because I do want to put a little emphasis on this. We've been talking about who's the best guy to dethrone Kenny Omega, and one of the names that always seems to be left out is Josh Alexander. I know, and I will give him props. Spencer has always been very pro Josh Alexander. He seems like he is that homegrown guy that can do it for the company, and I do feel the best guy suited to win the Impact title is a homegrown talent, just because he's better suited to become the star of Impact when it's an actual, and it's just a better feel-good story. I would love to see Josh Alexander be the AEW's Kenny or Hangman Adam Page, in that sense of, like, he is their next top babyface. So it'd be very curious to see if Option C is a thing. I hope they do. I like this. I think Option C is Impact's Money in the Bank, in my opinion. And it's really cool. It's a different concept. It's a really unique concept. It's just like the Ultimate X, which is kind of like the TLC. So, I mean, when you kind of look at platforms, Impact has a lot of unique things that make them stand out. One of them is Option C. I would love to see it. It puts more emphasis on the X Division Championship. It puts more emphasis on the individual holding it. And then it makes the champion always looking over his shoulder, especially one like Kenny Omega, who is in the battlegrounds of so many different companies. I would love to see perhaps a Daniel Bryan maybe be the guy that cost Kenny Omega the Impact Championship. I think Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson in Impact Wrestling might actually be pretty cool to watch.
It all depends on what this working relationship really is, because other than Kenny Omega and Private Party and Matt Hardy going over to Impact, we've seen nothing really about people going from AEW to Impact. And we've seen very little Impact to AEW. It seems to be more designed around this Kenny Omega storyline, which is fine, but if it's not going to be anything more than that, I don't think we should get our hopes up on something like Daniel Bryan in Impact or Daniel Bryan in the NWA. I think if with Daniel Bryan, I think we're dealing with AEW, getting the ratings for them, and then getting the ratings for, I don't know. That's an interesting one.
Chat, let us know. I was thinking this when you were talking. I didn't want to interrupt you, but
you're good.
Sorry, I kind of did.
I
still did.
But I mean,
move.
Think about it though. This year's G1 in front of a crowd again is going to be insane, depending on the talent that they can put in there. If people like Bryan are available, if people like Malachi are available.
Throwback, Danielson is going to be the one to beat Omega. AEW is dumb if they don't put the I'm going to say title, because on Danielson, he is a punk name that transcends pop culture. What do you think about that comment?
I love the idea of putting a title on a guy like Bryan Danielson, but are you going to really, really put at risk the future of the company and Adam Page by not letting this guy be the one to dethrone Omega? By not letting his story finally have that ending after 2 years in this company of fighting and clawing to get back to this moment, of the incredible storytelling that they had throughout that Omega Page Bucks feud.
Ooh.
and you're going to bring it all the way down and let Danielson sneak in and get that win. I love the idea, but I think that they're too tied to what they have right now to get there.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Adam Page, was he not a part of Bullet Club, or was he just part of
He
Elite?
was. No, he was.
Yeah.
He was Elite Bullet Club, but he was part of the official Bullet Club. Yes.
What happens if the whole play is Jay White being the guy that actually helps Adam Page win the championship, and Adam Page goes from the Elite Bullet Club to the other Bullet Club?
I mean,
and we really see like a Bullet Club war kind of in here.
I mean, I think that's where we're headed. I think we're headed to.
There you go.
We're headed to the Elite. We're headed to Bullet Club having this face off. Jay Quick, a friend of ours from the Tom Collahue Twitch channel. I see that Adam Page wins it all out, and then Punk shows up and says, "I'm here." That would be great. Putting Punk as a heel against Page, could be fun. Getting Kenny Omega back out, because Kenny Omega, like you said, has so many irons in the fire. He's dealing with Jay White and everybody else in an Impact with whoever's going to take that, whether it be Jay White, Chris Bay, Josh Alexander, or somebody else. He's dealing with Andrade in AAA for the Mega Championship. He's got Hangman Page in AEW. This dude is looking over his shoulder in so many promotions in so many ways that the inevitable fall from grace when he loses the first of these and it falls like dominoes is going to be fantastic. Especially on that last title that he's going to be gripping and holding on to with all his life.
And that's another thing. When you said too many irons in the fire, it's one of those phrases in wrestling where eventually you will get burnt. And that is the end game. Kenny Omega eventually will lose all these championships. Which one is going to be the first one? Who's to say at this point? I'm glad that you touched on Andre El Idolo, because he did make some waves. But before we get that throwback, it's a weird fantasy booking. Punk, Danielson, and Cardona in a faction against the Good Brothers and Omega with an all-or-nothing match.
Could be fun.
Could be. Personally, I don't know if they're bringing Cardona enough to have.
I don't know if they're bringing Cardona back. Speaking of Cardona, again, this week in wrestling, Matt Cardona versus Nick Gage, GCW tonight.
Yep.
If you have the interest and you have a stomach that doesn't turn easily, that could be something worth watching.
Sam coming in, I would like to see a pay-per-view of all the old-time superstars and have the new superstars interact and make names for themselves. All Federation can be invited. It's pretty much called WWE. I mean, they have Goldberg and all the really old stars. I mean, it depends. It depends
those the Saudi shows?
Yeah. It depends which kind of old stars you're referring to. If we're talking about the Bill Goldbergs, the maybe John Cena, Triple H, those old guys, or if we're talking about the Chris Jerichos of the world, or like which old stars are you referring to? That'd be also a great debate that we can talk about. But I was talking about Andrade El Idolo for 1 second. He made waves this week by introducing Chavo Guerrero as his new executive consultant. I love this because I don't think him and Vicky were really a good fit. But Chavo's interesting. I do believe that it takes a very specific person to talk for Andrade El Idolo. I thought Zelina Vega was absolutely money for him. I would have loved to see this act go to AEW. But I think Chavo is perfect because I think he is somebody that could speak well. He doesn't come across as annoying as Vicky, which is not an insult to Vicky. It's just the way they're portrayed. But also, he doesn't have to always speak for him. He can allow Andrade to speak for himself sometimes, which I believe Charlotte has said already that one of the things about Andrade that he wants to do moving forward is work on his English and get better at that, because eventually he wants to become a better promo outside of WWE. That is a goal for him. Both are showing some great knowledge and insight. I appreciate it. I want to thank you for adding to what I have asked. Sam, we want to thank you for just joining us and being interactive. That's what we want this show to be about, is interactive. Yeah. And now, Azra, I love seeing Chavo. And I was going to say he doesn't come off as annoying. Well, there you go. I'm not the only one. I'm glad. What did you think about Chavo as I just get through this parade of messages right now?
Binghamton. I don't know of any up in Binghamton, but I'm sure if you do a Google search, I'm sure you can find a local indie federation. Support indie wrestling. They are absolutely fantastic, and you can have such a great time there.
Yeah, if you give us your opinion on Chavo, I will Google Binghamton, New York, and see what's out there.
I was going to say, Chavo's great because Chavo brings this legacy and this lineage to Andrade. It gives him instant credibility. Not that Andrade needs more credibility after La Sombra and in the Andrade run and everything else he's done. But it brings in this great, Mexican wrestling lineage. And it also lets Vicky, who needs to be a specific type of manager for a specific type of talent, and she works so well with Nyla Rose, being exactly who she is and drawing heat the way she draws it. Whereas Andrade can draw the heat himself, and he just needs somebody to help articulate the heat to get over more of it. And the Chavo can do that by being able to speak a little bit better English and to help Andrade learn more English as they go on the road and being able to work with these super talented people. I can't wait for these matches with Death Triangle. I don't care what order they come in. I don't care how many of them there are. Andrade versus Phoenix, Andrade versus Penta, Andrade versus Pac. Give me all of them. They are going to be fantastic.
Yeah, and again, like when you're talking about Pac and the Death Triangle, that is something I wanted to touch base on because I had said earlier about when you bring in guys tend to get pushed away. I thought Pac. I was talking Pac completely. That's who I was talking about. Also, I just want to give a shout out. Excite Wrestling is what I found, Sam. Go to excitewrestling.com and check them out on Twitter. They do have a Twitter as well. That's what I found for you in the Binghamton, New York. I believe it was the greater Binghamton area. And Throwback Andrade is setting up his own stable.
Seems like it.
Yeah. I would love to. I always thought when I heard rumors about a potential return of the LWO, I always saw Andrade kind of as the face of that. But I wasn't really too sure. But the one thing I want to stay on topic for 1 second with my rant. But I was talking about Pac, I was talking about Penta, and I was talking about Rey Fenix. Those are three guys that have all the talent in the world. And it seems like the more guys you seem to push in, these guys are kind of being pushed aside at some point, or that's what it felt like. Pac, I thought, always was an upper echelon talent and maybe didn't get that showcased enough on Raw and SmackDown. And NXT, 100% he was. But AEW seems like he's kind of lost in the shuffle a little bit. I would like to see these guys be elevated a little bit more because it wasn't very long ago where we were seeing Pac and the John Moxleys of the world when he first came in, or the Pacs and Kenny Omega. This is a very talented individual and a very great faction that doesn't seem to get enough spotlight. I would like to see a little bit more with them. Your opinions on the Death Triangle before we kind of change topics there?
I was going to say, I love Death Triangle. I agree. AEW has this, and we talked about this on the War Report, if we can, and yes, Chavo, as Sam says, I think Chavo would be a great voice for somebody. Absolutely. Chavo can speak so fluently. He's so great. He can get over anything he needs to get over and really get over the talent as opposed to getting himself over, which is super hard for former wrestlers to do a lot of the time. Back to Death Triangle. We talked about this on the War Report, the AEW live War Report after AEW with Pluggo and JPJ. And we brought it up about the rotation that AEW seems to have, where they constantly have so many talented people that they want to keep pushing, that they're constantly rotating people in and out of storylines, and that people will disappear for 4, 5, 6 weeks. Now, granted, Phoenix was injured, and we just got done seeing Penta working with Kingston alongside Pac with the Young Bucks storyline. But how are these guys not constantly in a tag team division that's so stacked, but seemingly we're seeing the Hollywood Blondes. Again, no offense to the Hollywood Blondes, but when you've got Pride and Powerful, and you've got FTR, and you've got the Young Bucks, and you have Death Triangle, and you have the Lucha Brothers, and you have all of these talents, how are we seeing teams like Jurassic Express and the Hollywood, Peter
Clan.
Avalon's Stable and other things like that? Like, I love the fact that we're building them up, but how are we not seeing more tag team wrestling on the show? How are we not devoting more time to these tag teams? And why do we have 3 hours of internet wrestling that isn't showcasing these talents there as much as they should be? Like, it's mind-boggling how much talent they have, how much wrestling they put out, and people still feel like they're moved aside.
I'm glad that this isn't a Monday Night Raw issue, and this is more out, because I still remember the day that AEW was announced, and the Young Bucks came up to the podium, and they said that they want you to care about tag team wrestling. They care about tag team wrestling. They're going to do a better job of focusing on the tag team wrestling. And I still, to this day, think you just lied to me, because you really haven't. Because your first set of tag champs was the correct choice in SCU. And then you put it on a push together tag team made out of 2 individual stars. And I'm like, you guys are not doing anything. And then you took the time to build an FTR versus Young Bucks match, a match that I think everyone wanted to see for a long time. And it was a one-off, and it's done. And it's like, you killed that before you really gave it a good chance. And then now we see all these tag teams. And like you said, we're not seeing enough exposure for them. We know of them, but what platform do they have? When we talk about Death Triangle, I wonder if the rumored of the trio titles could be a reason to give them more of a platform. But with that being said, now I think if you add trio titles, you're getting into that conversation. And now does AEW have too many championships on their roster, in my opinion?
Well, it depends. I mean, AEW's championship problems start and end with the fact that if there's too many of them, it's because they're defending other people's titles on their own programming. And it makes, as you've said before, and I've seen this in the chat multiple times, and when me and you talk about this off the air, we constantly come back to this point. AEW makes their own titles feel inferior because there are so many other titles being brought up on their own programming and being defended on their own programming. The AEW's women's title, does that really feel as important as the NWA Women's Championship? Because a lot of times on pay-per-views, we were getting better matches for the NWA Women's Championship than we were for the AEW Women's Championship. The tag team titles, we have the Impact Tag Team Champions on the show every week with their titles out there. The last 2 weeks, we've had title defenses from Jon Moxley for the New Japan US Championship.
And that's a great segue too that you said, because what we saw kind of main eventing, I guess it was Fyter Fest 2, right? Like, it was the second part of the Fyter Fest. The main event to an AEW show was an IWGP United States Championship match, not an AEW championship match, not any AEW title, but a New Japan. We saw Archer become the new champion in an absolutely grueling match with Jon Moxley, where they just absolutely beat the living tar out of one another. But again, to the point, we're seeing a different company's championship main event, AEW, and the focus point of AEW isn't on their own championships. And because of that, it doesn't feel to me like their championships matter as much as other championships do because of this. It'd be interesting to find out what everyone in the chat thinks about that, because I know AEW is the new promotion that everyone loves. They do a lot of great stuff. Yeah, they do a lot of great things in AEW. But when it comes to establishing their own titles and champions, I feel like they don't do that well enough in terms of pro wrestling. But you know who does?
Yeah.
And they're criticized. It is WWE. And we did on Monday night see a new Raw Women's Champion in Nikki ASH.
Before we do that, I just want to go back to one thing that we talked about. We were talking about the Moxley Archer match.
Yeah.
I just want to ask you, as a professional wrestler, I'm sure you've been in your share of hardcore matches, right?
A few. I try to stay out.
Would
Not
you
my cup of tea.
Would you ever allow somebody to use a fork on you, on your forehead, in a wrestling match?
I mean, I don't think you try to let people do it. I think in a match it just happens. But I mean, there are a lot.
Brutal.
It is hard to go to someone who doesn't necessarily know pro wrestling and say, "Oh, you're a pro wrestler." Yeah. Oh, why do you jump off a ladder onto a table? Just even saying that alone is hard to get somebody in the normal world to understand our train of thought. Yet, oh, you're a pro wrestler, yeah? Oh, what did you last do? I was in a hardcore match and somebody took a fork against my skull. Why? Yeah, I don't know.
Because he wanted to and I couldn't stop him.
I mean, it's wrestling. I mean, what can you say? I mean, I don't think I would prefer using forks on food, but I mean, it is what it is. And Sam, I think getting back to the previous comment, I think a lot of federations stick in the past and they're afraid to bring up new names and promote them a lot. I also really enjoy the phrasing of federation. Very forgotten word when we're talking about pro wrestling.
I agree.
And then Jay Quick, I'm just waiting till AEW has its own streaming network because you know it's coming.
Probably, but I mean, they're so tied in with YouTube right now, it's going to be hard for them to really get their own thing going. I think that they're really loving the YouTube hits with having Dark Elevation on there. But yeah, no, an AEW streaming service is probably on its way. But I think that they need to be hitting 1 million plus every week, for a good 2-3 months before they can start thinking about investing into a streaming service, considering they're dropping so much money into the new AEW video game coming. If they're getting Punk and they're getting Bryan, they're dumping a ton of money into that. And while the Khans are legit billionaires and have all this money to throw around and still run the Jacksonville Jaguars and still run Fulham FC, like, they can do all that and not bat an eye. There's got to be a point where they're like, we can't just keep investing money unless we're getting a return.
Yeah.
And I want to say that they probably have that million mark weekly for a couple of months before they start investing in their own streaming network. But now I do want to get back to Nikki's ASH because that was a great moment.
Yeah, and I think it's one that we saw just through social media. So many people threw praise. It wasn't just people within WWE. It was, there's also a lot of people just released from WWE. But the outpouring of support that the artist formerly known as Nikki Cross, now Nikki ASH, almost superhero, I believe is what it is referred to, cashed in her Money in the Bank on Charlotte Flair on Monday night to close out Monday Night Raw and become the new Raw Women's Champion. Now, this is what I mean about closing off your own show with your own championship and making it feel like it mattered. Regardless of the move, I think not a lot of people enjoy like a flying crossbody as the move to win a championship. I loved it because of the old school feel. Took me back to Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair and Sting and Ric Flair. They used that move quite a lot. I believe that's how Sting won his first WCW championship, by the way, against Ric Flair.
Could be. It's been a while. I haven't watched.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Have to run to work. Thank you for answers and your insight and everything. I greatly appreciate you guys. Thank you in everything, and I enjoyed the show. Sam, first off, we want to thank you for being a part and asking a lot and being interactive. Please come back, and we hope to see you again maybe tomorrow for Sunday brunch and other shows. Go have fun at work. Earn that payday.
Parrish has got a payday coming up later tonight.
Yeah, I'll be wrestling later tonight, but focuses on Nikki becoming the new Raw Women's Champion. Small package, yeah, there we go. what was I thinking? Somebody correct me. I'm thinking of
There we go. Thank you, Jay Quick.
I'll put that up. That deserves more. Yeah, small package. The good old small package.
The most devastating move in all of professional wrestling.
Yeah. But yeah, Nikki Cross, new Raw Women's Champion. Absolutely love it. It's such a great feel-good story that Nikki ASH is now the champion. What were your thoughts, your takeaways as we do this? Because I do want to get to a couple other topics before we head out.
I love it. Nikki ASH has worked her butt off. Big Damo said it best. When the world was against her and everything seemed to be falling apart for her, she didn't blame anybody else. She didn't get jealous of people's success. She worked harder in the gym. She worked harder in the ring. She got this character together and she made it work, and she pitched it to them until it was the way she wanted it to be, in a meaning that she wanted, and she got it over, and the fans seem to be embracing it, and the company seems to be behind it. They put money on the bank on her, and then they let her win the world championship. Great for her. Good for her. She deserves this and all the success that comes with it. I hope this lasts for more than a month or so. It might not, but this would be a cool way to go into the draft with Nikki as champion. You can continue Rhea versus Charlotte, and you can move Nikki on to somebody else temporarily for a little bit and let Shayna Baszler, get a shot at the Raw Women's Championship. That could be fun. And you can tell these great stories and let Nikki kind of develop this character and keep pushing it forward.
Yeah, and I think it's really refreshing. I say that word a lot, but I think that's what we all crave is refreshing for pro wrestling. Just going to get to a couple comments. Asher coming in. It was a good surprise to know Charlotte has been cashed in on 3 times. Yeah, it's like a lot of people don't want her to be champion.
Go figure.
And then I think that was the shortest title run for Charlotte, unless I'm wrong.
Trying to think, because Bayley cashed in on Charlotte, but did she just won that or not?
I believe that was the shortest title reign for the Women's Championship since the reincarnation of the WWE Women's Championship.
Sounds right.
So I believe especially you are correct. Yeah, so I think that is correct. But the one thing that I'm very curious is just the new things. And plus, I think what a lot of people forget is that Nikki actually earned a championship match a couple months ago. Never got it. She never got her championship match, and nothing really was made out of it. She wasn't one to really complain about it because I believe she had beaten both Charlotte and Rhea in matches, whether it's a beat the clock match or things like that. She had earned a match, never got it, won Money in the Bank, and pretty much got it now. So I have a feeling they might do a triple threat match at SummerSlam. I'm not sure, but I hope this isn't a quick title run for Nikki. I think it'd make a great story for her if she was to hold this for a while. It's an inspiring title run, I think, because she's definitely one that's deserved it. I would say, I don't know. It wouldn't. I'd be surprised to see who's taking it off. I'd like to see somebody not named Charlotte take the championship off her when the time comes.
Yeah, that would be great. I think Charlotte has so many things that she can do right now that it's absolutely something that you can kind of bring Charlotte back away from the world title picture, finish up some stuff, and then go ahead and get Nikki over and try to bring up another talent along the way.
Yeah. Throwback, did you see Becky showing up at SummerSlam? It would make perfect sense if WWE did that, since it's been 3 years since I think she became the man. Also, it would make a major pop if they did that for Roman. The thing is with Becky, I think she's going to be on SmackDown moving forward. I have a feeling if she's not coming back, and I would be hard pressed to see her not be at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I would not be surprised if she was the blockbuster draft pick to SmackDown when the draft does come. I can see both being just fine.
If she comes back to Raw, which is possible because that's the brand she was last on, then yeah, I see her working a program with somebody like Charlotte or somebody like that. Honestly, I keep looking at it, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face until people are annoyed by hearing it. August 13th. No, well, there's that. But August 13th is the debut of Rampage at 10 p.m. on TNT.
Yeah.
It is the AEW second show. I think that SmackDown is going to be loaded so that people don't go to the competition after the show's over.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's where we get Becky again a week or so before SummerSlam.
Yeah, it's still hard pressed that we might see Becky Lynch versus Bianca Belair at SummerSlam. I think this would be a great match for Bianca and just a great nickname. But also, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe Ronda Rousey comes back by then. At least
Ronda's gone for a while.
At least an appearance. But
yeah, I knowing Vince and his thing about appearance and whatnot. I don't know if he's going to bring out Ronda Rousey pregnant to the ring, but it's very possible. It depends. I mean, yeah. Vince is a wonderfully crazy and intelligent and creative man. So,
well, you know what he has done. You know what he has done that really irked a lot of people. I know Throwback just put out. It'd be nice to see. Sorry, that's Nightbot. We don't like you, Nightbot. You're not cool. Also, it would be amazing if Becky is finally holding the NXT title once again in her career. Yeah, at this point, I do think she's past it. However, who knows? It was refreshing to see Charlotte go back. It could be refreshing to see Becky go back. But you're kind of where I'm going with. We saw the NXT champion Karrion Kross make his Monday Night Raw debut. And a lot of people have a lot of opinions about him having a quick match, quick loss to Jeff Hardy. That reaction says a lot. Jeff Hardy, by the way, brought back his old theme song, No More Words. And I do think that is hidden in this, as WWE did make it a big thing. It was one of those rumors. I think the only other theme song that's heavily wanted back by the WWE Universe and by fans is Broken Dreams for Drew McIntyre. And even maybe the CM Punk's old one could be one too. But with that being said, I do believe that they are using this as a platform to make Karrion Kross bigger. I don't think it's necessarily a shot at Karrion Kross or anything like that. I do believe Karrion Kross is going to become a bigger star post this. He has to start somewhere, and I do think in a weird way they're bringing him in, and instead of debuting with all his bells and whistles, they're slowly bringing along the bells and whistles, whether it is Scarlet, whether it is his cool entrance that he has with all the fog and all that. I think it will come. I think people need to kind of just relax a little bit. The fact that he hasn't lost a match, don't take that aside. It is the main roster. It's going to be different. You got to also understand that he's in a position right now where he is being introduced to a new fan base that is the people that watch on Raw and the USA Network. Not everybody who watches Raw and SmackDown also watch NXT. We've seen that in the past with reactions that aren't.
I was going to say we've seen it this week. Week. We had
Tony Storm did not get the biggest reaction when she debuted on SmackDown, but she is absolutely loved in the NXT universe. So
I'll say people need to remember that when we're talking about the universes of WWE and the Raw and the SmackDown universes, we're talking about groups of people that those shows are watched by 1 to 2 million people at a time. You have to remember, NXT is only watched by 600,000 to 800,000 people on a weekly basis. As big a names as these people are, they're not names that this casual WWE crowd are going to know too much about. And we can tell by the reaction to Cross, with the music, without the music, with Scarlet, without Scarlet, with the loss, no matter what. It didn't look great, and it made a lot of people on the internet unhappy, but how many casuals did it make unhappy? With Toni Storm, like you said, she didn't get a huge pop. These NXT call-ups that people are getting so worried about, let's give it some time. I know they have a bad track record. I know it's probably not going to turn out well and that they shouldn't get the benefit of the doubt. But let's give it the benefit of the doubt. And yes, No More Words came back. I'm not super into that theme. I've never really loved that theme. I would honestly like it if he had one of his TNA themes back. I thought those were really cool. But yeah, Karrion Kross versus. I think people are forgetting that they see the match and they see the loss and they see Jeff use the ropes to kind of pin Karrion Kross real quick, and it makes Kross look bad. But he had a really cool promo. And if the next 3 weeks, Karrion Kross comes out and destroys people, like absolutely murders people on television, he'll be okay.
Yeah,
He'll be
and
okay.
if he's to debut all these bells and whistles, say at like a SummerSlam, and maybe he has a match against Jeff Hardy at SummerSlam, and he has all this, Scarlett's there, he has the fog, he has a cool entrance. Just be patient. WWE tends to tell a story. It also could very well be a possibility that Karrion Kross is something that Vince McMahon is being careful on. If he wants to invest long-term on it, he wants to see what his asset can do without necessarily these bells and whistles. He wants to see just everything that Karrion Kross can do. So, I mean, that's there. I mean, remember, fog machines, all of this stuff, every day on the road, bringing all this equipment in, there has to be a rhyme and a reason WWE does that. There's a reason why MVP didn't get that cool entrance all the time and things like that. Like, eventually that faded away. So we got to just be patient with it. It's going to feel special. Maybe it's like the demon that is Finn Balor, which is one of the few last things I want us to talk about. John Cena's challenge, no, from Roman Reigns, but Finn Balor's challenge, yes. Your thoughts on getting Roman Reigns versus Finn Balor for the Universal Championship? I still think we're going to see Roman Reigns and Cena at SummerSlam, but I wouldn't be unhappy if Finn Balor is also involved in this as well.
I like the idea that you're telling these two stories side by side, with Roman being like, no, Cena, I don't need to fight you. I have no reason to deal with you. You're nothing to me. And the fans baiting Roman Reigns into accepting Finn Balor's challenge, because that was a great little segment where Roman's laughing at Finn going, really, who are you? And Heyman's talking him up and being like, maybe you should do this, maybe you shouldn't. This is, yada, yada. And the fans start chanting, Roman's scared of Finn. And Roman gets pissed and he's yelling at the fans and he's on that front line and he's just on the ropes yelling at them. And then he finally accepts Finn Balor's challenge. This is going to be really cool. People forget, and this goes back to long-term storytelling. You have Finn Balor, who got drafted to Raw in one of the drafts, wicked high. I think he was a top 5 or a top 10 pick in that draft from NXT. And on his first night on Raw, they had that 4-way because they were getting ready to crown the first Universal Champion. He pinned Roman Reigns in his first match on the main roster, and then he ended up winning the Universal title. Now, granted, that all got derailed with the injury, but the company was behind him and they believe in him. Now, granted, do I think he's going to beat Roman? No. There's nobody in this company right now that I'm going to unequivocally say can absolutely beat Roman. But I think that there's a way to do this where you can get Finn over in defeat and you can still keep Cena versus Roman at SummerSlam, and you can do Finn at Extreme Rules.
Yeah. And that's something that's very curious. The fact that Roman Reigns is a champion, but he still has targets. It wasn't too long ago where we're talking about what's next for Roman Reigns, who is left for Roman Reigns. And right now we have 2. And I think this is just, again, one of those things that now there's a reason to tune in, because we don't know if John Cena's coming here or Finn Balor's coming there, or if they're both attacking at the same time. Very refreshing to see. Outside of the SummerSlam, we'll talk more about SummerSlam probably tomorrow on Sunday Brunch. There's a lot that we still haven't even talked about, but we are getting to that time where we do have to take it away. But before that, I am going to say this one because we can't not talk about it. The rumor is very rampage that we will see the in-ring return of Samoa Joe facing Karrion Kross at TakeOver 36. It leads to this. I want to end with this because Samoa Joe, to me, is one of those talents that deserves more spotlight, even though I think a lot of people know that how good he is. But what are your takeaways from getting a potential Karrion Kross Samoa Joe NXT Championship match at TakeOver 36?
I love it. Getting Samoa Joe back in the ring is going to be fantastic. I think you're reading the same comment I just read. That's the one. Yeah. And we'll deviate from the Kross thing real quick because I do want to bring this up. I agree with you that The Rock could do it. The problem is, what benefit for the company does it get to put the title on The Rock to derail this Roman Reigns with The Rock? It's the same reason why I don't think Cena can do it. It's because any of these legends who could win the title conceivably from Roman, it derails this head of the table Roman character. And I think that the whole point of having Cena and having Rock face Roman is to make him the head of the table and to pass the torch from them to him. To him to be the king of that Anawahi legacy. To be the head of the table, the tribal chief. But yes, that storyline would work out great.
I think just to touch on that, I think the ultimate guy to acknowledge Roman Reigns would be Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Yeah, but I don't think he's going to acknowledge him right away because I think you're going. And yes, having the thing at the Hollywood premieres would be great, but do you want your world title? It's one thing for Brock to have the world title and not show up. It's another thing to have somebody like The Rock who can work even fewer dates than Brock having that world championship.
Also, does this match really need the world championship, or is this one of those matches where it's Rock Hogan? It's so big where you don't necessarily need a championship. It's just one of those dream matches that you can use each star to promote a main event match without it being necessarily a championship match.
I mean, you could have said the same thing about Once in a Lifetime and Twice in a Lifetime. But they put the title on that too.
Yeah.
Could you do it without the title? Absolutely. The whole family legacy thing, I think, is how this story is going to be told with Roman and Rock. I could see Roman losing the title somewhere between now and that match because I think that match happens. I don't think it happens. I know they keep saying Rock's back at Survivor Series. I think Rock appears at Survivor Series, but I don't think Rock's back in the ring until Mania.
Yeah. But we know who is returning to the ring, and that is Samoa Joe. And that is the rumor that we're getting that match. And I want to finish this off with Samoa Joe against Karrion Kross, NXT Championship, TakeOver 36. What are your takeaways for the TakeOver? Because I am absolutely stoked. I do think this will be Karrion Kross's swan song in NXT, and I think it is very fitting that it takes somebody who I believe could have been the perfect guy to beat Brock Lesnar for the Universal Championship. But Samoa Joe, who I think has established himself as the best replacement. And pretty much if it wasn't for Samoa Joe, I'd be asking you, why isn't Finn Balor still in NXT? But we have Samoa Joe, and now I don't ask that question. Samoa Joe is that perfect piece of the puzzle that NXT needs. If you can get past him, you're going around SmackDown. What's your thoughts about this match? And
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a great match. It's going to be fantastic. Kross is better in the ring than people give him credit for, at least in my eyes. I really like Kross matches. I think they're more entertaining than people think. Samoa Joe is a talent who can get anybody over. This dude can wrestle a broomstick for 35 minutes in a world title match, and it would be one of the 4-star matches. The dude is immensely talented. I can't wait to see him back in a ring. This takeover card is also going to have Walter versus Dragunov too.
Yeah, that's going to be a banger.
This card is already shaping up to be an absolute show stealer, and it is closing SummerSlam. Think about this: for the first time ever, NXT is closing SummerSlam weekend.
Yeah,
we're going to get Cena versus Roman, and then we're going to get Walter and Dragunov too. These are killer matches that we're going to
versus Seth Rollins.
Yes. I mean, these two cards are going to be stacked to the gills in
possibly
Vegas.
Cole and Kyle O'Reilly 3, which is absolutely unreal.
Okay.
No,
I get it. I'll watch it. I'll enjoy it. I'll thoroughly love it.
It's the new Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn. You got to admit that, right?
It is, but at least Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens were both super entertaining, and I'm not on board. I'm not on board with Cool Kyle. I'm sorry.
Adam Cole might be one of the best promos in WWE, in my opinion.
I'm not debating anything about Adam Cole. I'm talking about Cool Kyle. Because I said this on the NXT show, and I'll say it to you as a Canadian and see what you guys think, because I'm taking
okay. Yeah, be careful here.
I'm taking a small shot and a huge praise for both Kyle O'Reilly and the next person I'm going to speak of, because they're both Canadians, if I remember correctly. Kyle O'Reilly reminds me so much of Lance Storm. He's a singles wrestler who in the ring is probably one of the most talented wrestlers of his generation as a technical wrestler. But for some reason, there's just nothing to his gimmick as a singles competitor. When they're in a tag team or a group, they are really, really good. But as a single, they just have nothing when it comes to the charisma that they have as part of a group.
I won't disagree. I wonder why you had to compare him to Lance Storm and not an American version of this.
Because when I think of great wrestlers who have no charisma but are some of the top technical wrestlers in the world, the first person I think about is Lance Storm. Because I love watching Lance Storm matches, but I fall asleep watching Lance Storm talk.
Oh, sure. 100%. I'm not going to debate that one at all. But
which is and it's the same thing with Kyle. Like, Kyle doesn't entertain me at all when the dude talks, but when the guy gets in the ring and wrestles, he's one of the best in the business. So he reminds me of Lance.
I think Kyle O'Reilly is really more of a, when Christian was kind of like at his beginning part in the singles, if you put Kyle O'Reilly as a heel instead of a babyface, I think we're talking that comparison. Okay. Because the way he was in Undisputed Era, he was kind of an individual standout. He wasn't, and then it was just the tag team. Bobby Fish was amazing. Well, with that being said, we'll talk about this on brunch tomorrow. Yeah. But Karrion Kross, Samoa Joe, I think it's the perfect setup because I do like throwbacks. Give me Kross versus Cena. I think that's a WrestleMania match. I really do.
I think it's WrestleMania match this upcoming year.
Yeah.
I won't be surprised if that's on the card for WrestleMania 38.
Yeah. But I just have a feeling that Samoa Joe is going to add so much to this. And I'm really looking forward to it.
Do you think Joe and Kross close the show, or do you think they close with Walter and Dragunov?
No, I think it's Joe. It's his in-ring return. And I think that enough. This story is better told. And it's more viewed.
I agree. I just wanted to throw it out there as a suggestion because you could honestly make the argument that Walter and Dragunov's going to be the better match.
Oh, they will. They will. But I think the moment of time we'll see Samoa Joe in a wrestling ring one more time. I think it's one of those where a lot of people were unsure. It's the same reason to why I think we cared so much about Daniel Bryan. And I think Daniel Bryan WrestleMania match in ring return was let down because of the tag. But I do believe that, when Edge came back and he had his first match back, it was a big thing. John Bauer. I think I know this guy. What's up, boys?
He looks familiar, but I know him as a different name. But hey, Pluggo.
Yeah.
This is a reach.
I agree. But now we're getting into fantasy bookings stuff, and unfortunately, this show is more about what we saw this week. But let's take a pause here. Anything now, we'll talk either next week or we'll talk tomorrow on Sunday brunch because both of us will be there at Sunday brunch. Ed, thank you for joining me today. I very much appreciate that. And then we have Pluggo. Pluggo, pick a platform and stay with it, brother.
No, watch us on all the platforms. Do the multi-streaming. It's great. More viewers.
For sure. But with that being said, we are leaving. So timing is not in Love Wrestling's best venture, apparently, for promoting each other because no love for Pluggo. We have love for everyone. But Ed, thank you for joining me today. Where can people find you? And I believe there is something happening today on YouTube that you are aware of. What is that? And can you give us more light and shed more light on that?
So people can find me at the Twitter handle on the screen, edfries12584 on Twitter. But more importantly, we have some new friends joining us and working with us, and it's Headlock Talk. And their first conversation that they're talking about is Hulk Hogan and the Gawker lawsuit and how that changed things. And I'm very excited to give that a listen because it popped up in my notifications a little while ago. It's about an hour long, and I can't wait to listen to it. So everybody give them a look on Love Wrestling CA on YouTube.
Yeah, and then that's something that we're very excited to bring to you, everyone. And Headlock Talk is just going to be absolutely amazing. You can follow me at the Chris Parrish here. The C does reflect the fact that I am the Love Wrestling Elite Champion. However, Spencer Love, I want my title. You got to give me my title. I think
give him what he wants.
Yeah, give me what I want. But I might pick it up later. To be fair, we are busy men. But with that being said, you can return and watch us tomorrow night at Sunday Brunch, same time. I believe that is 11 o'clock if you're in the Alberta time frame, 1 o'clock Eastern. I think we're Mountain. I don't know. I forget. Yeah. I hate these time zones. They're the dumbest thing. Just let's have one universal time. And it'll be hilarious to see 11 o'clock in the morning and somebody's in light, and then it's at 11 o'clock somewhere else and it's pitch black. I want to see that. It's funny. Yes, I know. I still want to know why the mixed match was not involved. But with that being said, congratulations to Dennis. You deserved it. But with that, thank you to everyone who stopped by today. I very much appreciate that. If you are also here and you're like, you know what, where can we get a beautiful shirt like you're wearing, Mr. Parrish? You can go to lovewrestling.ca/shop. I believe that is it. I will show you right there. There you go. Make sure you do that. You can also get some stickers, some fanny packs that we have now busted out. Make sure you support us both on YouTube and Twitch. And if you want, go to rate this podcast/wrestling. We want to be number one because who doesn't want to be number one?
Shout out RK Athletics one more time, because those guys are awesome, and Rich is doing amazing work and sponsoring us.
Yeah, he does multiple workouts in a day, so we'll give him multiple shout-outs in a day. RK Athletics, make sure you check them out. They are our sponsor for it, and they are absolutely great. Rich King is absolutely amazing. He will be in also action in Red Deer as well tonight alongside myself. Ed, we appreciate it. Thank you for stopping by. Everyone,
thank you for having me.
Thank you for stopping by. We appreciate it. We'll see you next week. We'll also see you tomorrow for brunch. That is us tonight. Have a good one.